Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
We fetch shalom.
We are looking at Humanum Genus on Freemasonry by which Pope?
Pope Leo the 13th.
What year?
1884.
We're on page 22, paragraph 28. Would that all men would judge of the tree by its fruits, and would acknowledge the seed and origin of the evils which press upon us, and of the dangers that are impending. So, for this good Pope, do the Freemasons just pose a distant threat?
No.
Notice the words, impending, dangers, evils pressing upon us. It's very urgent, right? It's right around the corner. It's at the fingertips. We have to deal with a deceitful and crafty enemy who, gratifying the ears of people and of princes, has ensnared them by
Smooth speeches and by adulation.
Yeah, adulation is flattery, our praise. So, smooth speeches. Smooth speeches. Are you enslaved to your kitchen? Are you enslaved to have to take orders from your husband and take care of children and do slavery kitchen work all day? Are you enslaved to an old fashion of a dress? Free yourself. Break free from these chains. Get a job. Have fewer children. Put the children in a daycare center. Smooth speeches. Sounds attractive. You know, they make the real noble vocation of a mother look like trash and make a worldly life of a career look glamorous. Smooth speeches, very dangerous. And they do this, in TV shows. They work this into movies. All these ideas go in. They're very dangerous. And they work their evils into movies now. Movies are the big thing. Movies and commercials and stuff like that to bend the thinking of the people. Ingratiating themselves with rulers under a pretense of friendship. So they surround rulers, right? So you got that funny picture of Putin surrounded by all these rabbis. Then you got Trump surrounded by all these rabbis. Then you got Zelensky surrounded by all these rabbis. Who really runs the show?
The Jews.
Yes, they do. And they don't hide that either. Father Ruiz has sent me numerous videos of rabbis speaking and saying, just matter of fact, we own the world, we're going to take over, we want to get rid of the Goyim, we're going to have our Messiah. When he comes, he will dominate. And our people will dominate the whole world. They don't hide it. They don't hide it. And we know who their Messiah will be. Who?
Christ.
Absolutely. So they get buddy-buddy with political leaders and big names, ingratiating themselves with rulers under a pretense of friendship. The Freemasons have endeavored to make them their allies, that is political powers, and powerful helpers for the destruction of the Christian name, and that they might more strongly urge them on, they have with determined calumny accused the Church of invidiously contending with rulers in matters that affect their authority and sovereign power. So these rats will say, the Church is trying to take away your authority. The Church is trying to take away your power. And, what do you mean? Well, look at that priest over there, that Father John Bosco. He's starting a school, it's growing. People are going to no longer see you as the authority. And this is what they did, in fact, to, I forget his name, the emperor of Italy at the time. And Pope St. John Bosco had to go see him numerous times to clear the false accusations of his enemies. And it turns out that that leader, I forget his name, some count, I think, he, on his deathbed, St. John Bosco went to him and he died with the sacraments. So he fought St. John Bosco his whole political life. And then St. John Bosco won his soul at the end. So the Freemasons, they are connivers, they are deceivers, they are liars. And this is what Pope Leo XIII is saying. So wake up, rulers, he's saying. Wake up, princes, rulers, bishops. Don't fall asleep with this danger. But they did. They did fall asleep. Having by these artifices or tricks ensured their own safety and audacity, boldness, they have begun to exercise great weight in the government of states. But nevertheless, they are prepared to shake the foundations of empires, to harass the rulers of the state, to accuse and to cast them out, as often as they appear to govern otherwise than they themselves could have wished. So today they got a little more advanced. If they have a government ruler they don't want in power, it's not cooperating with the Freemasons, what do?
They just kill them.
Yeah, just kill them. Send a drone, or put a pill in, or easy way. And they did that to Garcia Moreno, of course, in a very open way. They just hired thugs and they just macheted him. In like manner, they have by flattery deluded the people. Deluded the people. You're free. Liberty. You're all equal. Equality. Fraternity. You have freedom of conscience. You're free to believe what you want. You're free to do as you like. And then they get the state to flood in the people with filthy, years ago, magazines, books, horrible books, which St. John Bosco fought against and St. Anthony Mary Claret fought against. And also in his time, St. Francis de Sales against the Calvinists, all the Protestant propaganda. So now it's much more advanced. Now it's at the level of videos and accessibility to the fingertips. I guess one good side of internet is you can control what you see, more or less. You can control that. While with just TV, 70 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, just the TV, you swallowed whatever they gave you. So all the poison was mixed in with the good. But with the internet now, at least at this point, you can kind of choose and block what you don't want to see. So, but they're working towards absolute control of internet so that anyone who goes against their propaganda will be censored. And we've already seen that in the whole COVID era, those COVID years, those few years. Anyone who said anything against the masks, anything against the injections, anything was censored off. I was censored off dozens of times. Many good doctors and nurses were just completely censored off because of that Zuckerberg, that traitor. So Michael Matt, he had to do that because he kept getting censored off internet. So he said, well, we just had enough of this. Let's just make our own platform. And they did. They actually succeeded. So he runs the Remnant Underground. And I would say Michael Matt, on the political questions, he's quite good. He's quite good. On the political questions, he's more accurate than most news outlets. Because at least he has a Catholic angle on things. Of course, we don't agree with him with, just any Latin Mass is good. That's the Michael Davies position, which is, it's not true. Because many of these Latin Masses the priests have to compromise against the faith. So you don't go to those Masses. Yeah, but it's a Latin Mass. Well, if the priest has an erroneous position. We can't support that. Like St. Peter's position, the new SSPX, the indult. And some people don't get it. They just don't get it. You know, it's the Latin Mass, that's all I'm interested in. If it's Latin Mass, doesn't matter who the priest is, I'm going. Well, that's just, you know, like I said before many times, the Orthodox have a beautiful traditional Mass. The Orthodox schismatics. But can we go to it? We cannot. And it's even valid. See, with St. Peter's, you're not even sure it's really valid because all their priests, most of them now, are ordained in the new rite or by bishops consecrated in the new rite. So there at least is an objective doubt. Theologically speaking, there's a true argument there. But with the schismatic Orthodox, there's no doubt whatsoever. They are true priests. They've never changed the rite of ordination or Mass. It's a beautiful Mass on top of it. It's valid. So why can't I go? Because they hold the wrong faith. That's why. And by canon law, we're not allowed to go to these schismatic Orthodox Masses. Yeah, but it's incense, it's vestments, it's beautiful, it's the old Mass, and it's valid. That's all I need. Well, sorry, that's we have to profess the right faith. So the Freemasons, this is Pope Leo XIII thing, is just exposing these snakes for what they are. So they use flattery to delude the people. Flattery. And in another encyclical, Pope Leo XIII will say, look how the people have become slaves to their passions by filthy books and propaganda. It incites especially lust and rebellion of the people, and instead of making them free, enslaves them. And I mean, just think what pornography does to poor people. It really can be addicting, and it really can truly enslave people. It has led many to suicide because they just feel they just can't get out of this cycle of drowning in mud. And poor souls. It's a true enslavement. It's a real enslavement of the passions. But what makes a man free? What makes the saints happy and free? And truly men, virtues. Vir, the root word of virtue is vir, which is a man. So a true man conquers his passions, keeps them in order, subdues them with the grace of God, and is not a slave to the passions. So when men are slaves, they're truly slaves of the passions. But when which the Catholic Church always has taught, when we subdue these passions and live in the state of grace, then you're truly free. You're a free man. You're not enslaved by alcoholism or pornography or drugs or anger. Some people can be slaves, addicted to their sin of anger or sloth. So all this stuff, we're only free when we are not enslaved to these things and united with God by grace. So the Freemasons use flattery to delude the people. Oh, free yourself. Girls, if you're pregnant, free yourselves. You can't afford a new baby. You can't interrupt your pursuit of your career by taking care of a baby. Just abort it. Planned Parenthood has the solution. It's called pro-choice. It's called getting rid of the matter of conception. This is what they call it now. It's really sick. And then he goes on to say, proclaiming with a loud voice liberty and public prosperity, and saying that it was owing to the church and to sovereigns that the multitude were not drawn out of their unjust servitude and poverty. In other words, it's the Catholic Church that kept everybody enslaved and poor. They have imposed upon the people, and exciting them by a thirst for novelty, they have urged them to assail both the church and the civil power. So yes, in St. John Bosco's day, 1800s, they often attacked the Catholic Church for being power hungry. And priests just want to dominate over everybody. That's what the church is all about, is material domination. And it stirred many people against the church. But when you talk to an actual priest or monk or nun, you realize monks and nuns make vows of poverty. How would they want more material domination? And priests, if they're good priests, live the spirit of poverty. And they just give their life for the love of God and souls. So, all these lies from the Freemasons. And now it's pretty easy to knock down the Catholic Church because they've infiltrated it. And they got all these perverts that like termites in the wood. Then you got modernism, you got Vatican II and the New Mass, so you got the scandals of this Pope, bad bishops, cardinals, priests, nuns, so it's easy to smash the church now. And they do. They mock the Catholic Church. So we must defend our mother. Defend our mother, the church. Yeah, these are Judases, we all agree. They're all Judases. But it doesn't mean we abandon the true Church of Jesus Christ. And then what else does he say? They have imposed upon the people and exciting them by a thirst for novelty. They have urged them to assail both the church and the civil power. Nevertheless, the expectation of the benefits which were hoped for was greater than the reality. Indeed, the common people, more oppressed than they were before, are deprived in their misery of that solace which, if things had been arranged in a Christian manner, they would have had with ease and in abundance. So by abandoning the Catholic Church, by abandoning the faith and Catholic principles, they end up worse than ever before, such as communist countries. But whoever strive against the order which divine providence has constituted pay, usually, the penalty of their pride and meet with affliction and misery, where they rashly hope to find all things prosperous and in conformity with their desires. Isn't this one of the communist lies? You know? They're all lies. Vote for this. In South Africa, they voted for Mandela, because he was going to free the people from apartheid, from oppression. He was a cold-blooded communist. And his wife, Winnie, this was in the 80s, 70s and 80s, she said, "We will free the South Africans by the necklace." Sounds all nice, doesn't it? But what did the necklace mean? We will free South Africa by the necklace treatment, which is to take a tire around their neck, go to a town, take the leaders of the town, put a tire around their neck, fill it with kerosene, and ignite it. That was what they did. And they brought in communism. And in the name of racism, anyone who complained about the abuses of the blacks, they were called racists, and they were demoted or just killed. So now in South Africa, in the last 30 years, they just wipe out, they go to a farmhouse and just in cold blood kill the whole family, take their land, and there's no defense. There's white people living in colonies out in the bush, just surviving off the ground. And you never hear that. But I've talked to South Africans who escaped that, and they were lucky to escape. But one of them said he witnessed a murder of a family, and there was nothing he could do. They just surrounded the house and butchered him in cold blood in the name of apartheid. So this is what communists do. They say freedom. They say we're going to free you, but what it means is enslavement. And then Father Craig Buffet, who's in Ireland, his brother was in the Rhodesian army, and their friend, the Seabers, who became a brother of the Redemptorists, Brother Basil. They were in the army of the Rhodesians for South Africa, defending Rhodesia. And when they found out that the leaders of the army were working with the communists, so you had the Rhodesian army fighting the communists, but the leaders of the Rhodesian army were friends with the communists, so they were betraying their own country from the top. And when these guys realized they were being betrayed, they left the army and they gave their life to God. They became priests and a brother with the society back in Ridgefield in the 80s. So Father Buffet is in Ireland now. So you see, the communists, this is how they work, and their mother is Freemasonry. So, what else? But whoever strive against the order which divine providence has constituted pay usually the penalty for their pride. 29. The Church, if she directs men to render obedience chiefly and above all to God, the sovereign Lord, is wrongly and falsely believed either to be envious of the civil power or to arrogate to herself something of the rights of sovereigns. So here they accuse the Church of seeking more power and all this. And you know, what hypocrisy of the Freemasons. They accuse the Catholic Church of wanting more power, but they steal her property, the Papal States. I mean, the Papal States used to be huge in Italy. They actually stole all those properties, and the only Papal State left is the Vatican City, which is a city, that's all, with a white boundary around it. So who's been land hungry? Who's been power hungry? It's the Freemasons, who unjustly stole from the Church her property under Pius IX, and he had to flee for his life. They wanted to kill him. And they didn't want Vatican I to happen. That's why they caused the war to put a stop to the Vatican Council I. But they succeeded to do something great, which was to declare the infallibility of the Pope, which is a Catholic faith, which we needed in these days against the schismatic Orthodox, and then to clearly define what the papal power really is, to face these modernist popes, because we know that not everything the Pope says is infallible. That's obvious. There are conditions. What are they? The Pope is only infallible under what conditions? One,
that he speak as the teacher of the Universal Church.
yes, he speaks as head of the Church, Pope.
Yes.
Two,
that it has to be on faith and morals, concerning faith and morals.
matters of faith and morals.
He must intend to bind the whole church.
Yes, bind the entire Catholic Church and not just the Church in Canada or Africa. And then fourthly, often there is
a condemnation along with the...
yes, often, but that's not absolutely necessary. But the three are conditions. So if you have Pope John Paul II giving his opinion that states should be neutral on matters of religion and this is the best system, well, he's wrong. He's abusing his papacy, right? So this dogma on infallibility saved us in these times. God, the Holy Ghost guiding the Church, was preparing for us for this battle, to be able to see through this mess. And thanks to Archbishop Lefebvre, he was able to steer through this confusion. Yes, we must obey the Pope, but if the Pope steps out of his duty to defend the faith, we don't obey him. Right? It's very clear, and it's very much at peace, because the lines are clear, thanks to Vatican I. So, on the contrary, paragraph 29, on the contrary, she, the Church, teaches that what is rightly due to the civil power must be rendered to it with a conviction and consciousness of duty. In teaching that from God himself comes the right of ruling, the Church adds, a great dignity to civil authority, and no small help towards obtaining the obedience and goodwill of the citizens. So the Catholic Church, rather than antagonize against civil rulers brings peace, because the church encourages people, obey your mayors, obey your senate, your governors, obey your president, as long as what they command is not against the law of God. Right? It makes perfect sense, and it brings great peace. And in fact, it helps the leaders. The friend of peace and sustainer of concord, she, the church, embraces all with maternal love, intent only upon giving help to mortal man. She teaches that to justice must be joined
Clemency.
Yes, so to harsh justice, cold justice, must be joined clemency, which is to show mercy as well. So, in some cases, the church a priest, our bishop may intercede and say, rather than the death penalty for this person, maybe give them a longer sentence. Mercy, to give them the chance of conversion. Right? I speak of particular cases. She must be joined equity to authority and moderation to law-giving, that no one's right may be violated, that order and public tranquility are to be maintained, and that the poverty of those who are in need is, as far as possible, to be relieved by public and private charity. So this is the good influence of the church. The Catholic Church in her tradition brings great peace, harmony between people and rulers. But for this reason, to use the words of St. Augustine, men think or would have it believed that Christian teaching is not suited to the good of the state, for they wish the state to be founded not on solid virtue, but on the impunity of vice. Knowing these things, both princes and people would act with political wisdom and according to the needs of general safety. If instead of joining with Freemasons to destroy the church, they joined with the church in repelling their attacks. That's wonderfully put. So Pope Leo XIII is saying, people, don't fall for the lies and propaganda of the Freemasons. Stay with your mother, the church. She's been around since Christ established her. She always promotes peace and the good of society and condemns sin, of course. But don't fall for the lies of the Freemasons, he's saying. Don't fall for their tricks, their deceptions, their flattery, because they only seek the destruction of society and the church. Is he right?
Yes.
Absolutely right, as history has proved. 30. Whatever the future may be in this grave and widespread evil, it is our duty, venerable brethren, to endeavor to find a remedy. So now the Pope, he points out the problem, points out the enemy, shows their ears, their teeth, their plan, and now the remedy. And this is what these great encyclicals of these good popes have always given. What's the cure? How do you fix this problem? And because we know that our best and firmest hope of a remedy is in the power of that divine religion which the Freemasons hate in proportion to their fear of it, do the Freemasons fear the Muslim religion? No, not much to fear, although they can get out of control. Do the Freemasons fear Protestantism?
No.
They laugh. They just laugh. There's no threat with Protestantism. Do they fear Mormonism? Do they fear the Novus Ordo version of Catholicism?
No.
Not at all. It's theirs. It's their new mass. It's their new modernist popes with their ideas. But do they fear Archbishop Lefebvre's position and the position of all the traditional Catholic popes?
Yes.
Do they fear Catholic tradition?
Yeah.
In France, in the 90s, there was a head Masonic lodge. One of the leaders said, "We fear, more than anything in France right now, the schools of Archbishop Lefebvre." That's what they said in the 80s and 90s. We fear the schools of Archbishop Lefebvre. Why? Because they were teaching the real catechism, the real faith, and the real history to revive France and bring it back to the Catholic faith. But the Masons did their dirty work, so now they don't fear them anymore. They don't fear them anymore. But they don't like this talk of Catholic resistance, though. Continuing the work of Archbishop Lefebvre's stuff. That can't happen. That can't happen. They don't want that. All right. We think it to be of chief importance to call that most saving power of our aid against the common enemy. Therefore, whatsoever the Roman pontiffs, our predecessors, have decreed for the purpose of opposing the undertakings and endeavors of the Masonic sect, and whatsoever they have enacted to deter or withdraw men from societies of this kind, we ratify and confirm it all by our apostolic authority. In other words, anyone? Whatever the previous popes have said to condemn, to correct, to warn people of Freemasonry, we back it 100%. That's what he's saying. We ratify and confirm it all by our apostolic authority. And trusting greatly to the goodwill of Christians, we pray and beseech each one, for the sake of his eternal salvation, to be most conscientiously careful, not in the least to depart from what the Apostolic See has commanded in this matter. So don't depart from what the popes have been warning you. Don't fall for the lies and tricks of Freemasonry. Stay away from the lodges. 31. We pray and beseech you, venerable brethren, to join your efforts with ours, and earnestly to strive for the extirpation of this foul plague. What good language, strong language. Help the Pope extirpate, that is, dig out, cut out this foul plague of what?
Of Freemasonry.
Yes, and all its tricks and deceptions, which is creeping through the veins of the state, like a poisonous vaccine injected in the arm. It's in the bloodstream. It's in the bloodstream, causing great harm of the state, in the veins of the state. You have to defend the glory of God and the salvation of your neighbor. And with this object of your strife before you, neither courage nor strength will be wanting. So he's mainly talking to who?
The bishops.
Exactly. It will be for your prudence to judge by what means you can best overcome the difficulties and obstacles you meet with. But as it befits the authority of our office, that we ourselves should point out some suitable way of proceeding. We wish it to be your rule, first of all, to
Tear away the mask for Freemasonry.
ordering to the bishop, tear away the mask from Freemasonry. Show them for the wolves that they are. That's powerful. Imagine a pope right now saying that. Tear the mask off the Freemasons.
Rip his own mask off.
Yes, well, that's why I say only a good pope would say that. Tear the mask off. Tear the mask off. Yeah, that was very applicable with the whole COVID scam. Everyone walking around with a stupid mask. And I couldn't believe, even college kids fell for this. I thought at that age, well, where's the old rebellion, the old rebellion. I'm not going to follow no rules. But the modern college kids are more soft and gooey and more been bunny rabbitized, been feminized.
So they're being brainwashed. They have their phones in front of them all the time. It's just constantly feeding.
Why do they even need the talk? They just talk to each other on text. There's no problem wearing a mask.
Well, they all fell for it. It was quite upsetting to see that the young fighting rebellious people caved right in. But yeah, the Masonic propaganda. Masonic propaganda. So, Pope Leo XIII, tear away the mask from Freemasonry. He's telling the bishops. And this still applies. It's still their duty to tear the mask off. And to let it be seen as it really is. And by sermons, keep them quiet. And pastoral letters, no letters, just
to certain faithful, just
yeah,
to the elite.
yeah, only to the elite faithful who keep in touch. Instruct the people as to the artifices used by the societies of this kind in seducing men and enticing them into their ranks. So he's saying, no, public sermons, public letters, instruct the people, warn them of these seductions, enticing them into their ranks, and as to their depravity of their opinions and the wickedness of their acts. So the bishops have to expose what the Freemasons are doing. It's an order, and it's still an order. That's why Father Luigi Villa, he exposed the Freemasonic enticements and his entanglement into Freemasonry of Pope Paul VI. That his mother was a Freemason, that everything around him was surrounded by Masonic symbols. And most likely he was himself, very likely. And Bonini, definitely. So, we have to still expose this. Right? And the fake resistance's silence is a Masonic behavior. I'm sorry, say what you want. It's a Masonic behavior. And then the new SSPX, it's been Masonically manipulated from within. Some Masons got in there and changed the position from Archbishop Lefebvre to Bishop Follet's liberal position. From the fight for the faith to smiles and shaking hands with everybody so we can get agreement and recognition. It's very sad, but we have to expose it. We have to expose it, well, obviously, with keeping it on the doctrinal level. We don't attack the persons and insult people. That's not the level we're fighting. We're fighting on the doctrinal level, but sometimes you got to say the names of traitors. Like St. Athanasius didn't hesitate to say the name of Arius or Constantius, the emperor. All right, as our predecessors have many times repeated, let no man think that he may for any reason whatsoever
Join the Masonic sect.
Yeah, no one can join the Masons. No. So isn't that telling that in the new Code of Canon Law that Pope Paul VI lifted the excommunication for Freemasons?
Was it Pope Paul VI or John Paul II?
Well, John Paul II put it into the law.
Oh.
It's no longer an excommunication. It's in the new Code of Canon Law.
Yeah.
It's very telling, isn't it?
Yes.
If he values his Catholic name and his eternal salvation as he ought to value them, he cannot join the Freemasons. Let no one be deceived by a pretense of honesty. It may seem to some that Freemasons demand nothing that is openly contrary to religion and morality. So they seem all, good, they mean well, they want to do good for mankind. But as the whole principle and object of the sect lies in what is vicious and criminal, to join with these men or in any way to help them cannot be lawful. So that excommunication of the old law still holds. It's an excommunication for Catholics to join Freemasonry. It still holds. All right, we'll stop there and pick up next time. Adjutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
We